So guys, the best Tesla Model 3 for road trips is basically a Tesla that they don't even advertise on their website anymore. So if you look on their website, they have the Standard Range Plus, they have the all-wheel drive models, which are comprised of the performance and non-performance. But there is a secret menu item, if you want to call it, which is the long range rear-wheel drive that has 325 miles of range. If you get it with the 18-inch aero wheels, it is the most efficient. You get the bonus efficiency from the aero wheels. The fact that it's not all-wheel drive and dual motors, it's actually more efficient that way as well. It's overall the best Tesla for road trips right now, unless you're trying to drop like 100K on a Tesla Model S, the new ones with 370 miles of range. It is an off-menu item, so you either have to find local inventory by calling your Tesla dealer. Is that what they call them? I have no idea. Or if you call up, you can also just custom order one, and they should still be able to make them for you. What a lot of people do, though, they're looking at Teslas, and they basically are looking at the long range, and they see they can get the all-wheel drive model for literally not much more than the rear-wheel drive model long range. But the thing is, if you go all-wheel drive, you are getting some faster speeds. You gain about 0.5 seconds faster in acceleration. The performance all-wheel drive model, of course, is 0 to 60 in like 3.3 seconds. But I think, honestly, at the end of the day, unless you are a super performance junkie, you're going to be more satisfied with longer range versus quicker speeds. And from what I've heard from most people, you do not need all-wheel drive just for driving around. Like in the rain in Florida, I don't think it has much effect. The computers and the software is smart enough to prevent your wheels from spinning. Unless you're up north, in a ton of snow, I really wouldn't care to think of the all-wheel drive model unless you're just a junkie that wants the best. And if that's the case, opt for the performance. A lot of people, though, will just automatically go to the all-wheel drive long-range model just because it's faster, it has dual motors, it has all-wheel drive, which sounds cooler. If you opt for the less cool long-range rear-wheel drive, you get more range. You also, if you get the 18-inch wheels, you get better range there. And the efficiency of the rear-wheel drive model is better than the all-wheel drive model. Many users have reported that. If you have any type of range anxiety and you want to get an EV, the 325 rear-wheel drive long-range model is the best right now in 2019. So guys, I had my first road trip in my Tesla Model 3. I'm actually pretty hyped after it. We left this morning at 6 in the morning. We got back at 4 o'clock p.m. The total trip was about 400 plus miles. We drove for like 6 hours. We did not stop at all along the way. We just charged right at our destination, ate lunch, and came back. Honestly, I was kind of afraid because this is my first long trip Tesla trip. I've always just kind of gone to work and back or gone to another town and back, never really stretching out the range to its fullest capability. And honestly, I was afraid, like I said, because I would do the navigation and it would tell me based on your current charge, you're going to get there with 5%. I was so freaking worried. So to basically give you an idea, and obviously this varies depending on your location, but on the way to our destination, we passed 1 supercharger, 2, 3, 4. There's one in Ocala. And then the 5th one is in Gainesville where we were driving. And we actually made it there with about 90 miles of range, which is more than what the car estimated when we drove. And then this is on our way back only. So the trip back was about 208 miles. If you multiply that by 2, the trip was about 420 miles. Our efficiency was a little bit worse than our drive there, because our drive there, I was super paranoid because when we left, it estimated us arriving with about 11% battery remaining. but I drove about 75 miles per hour, mostly on autopilot. After I kind of got used to the car and how it was working, I drove back a little bit faster. And then we arrived back home with about 57 miles of range. We arrived there with 86 miles. The other thing to keep in mind, guys, is that when we were supercharging, the car did not fully charge all the way. It charged to about 306 miles versus when we left with a full charge of 325 miles. It's also important to note, like, when you're traveling, you want to basically adjust your range to 100% capacity. So right now, I have the limit set in the daily limit, which is anywhere between here and here. And then when you're going on a trip, you can set it to 100% capacity. It actually warned you not to do that much. So my commute is short to work, so I'm just keeping it like right here. There's no need to charge all the way up. And you can also see right here, guys, we supercharged in Gainesville. We paid $0 because I have actual successful referrals. So I have like 5,000 miles of free supercharging. It's also important to note, guys, if you charge past 90% in anticipation of a trip, when you're at that 90% range or higher, your regenerative braking is disabled, because the way regenerative braking works, your car slows itself down to charge the battery. But if your battery is to capacity, that won't work. So when I first left the house and like let off the accelerator, it was very weird. The car was not slowing down like I was used to. I had to actually put way more force on the brake pedal. That's because the regenerative braking wasn't working yet, because I charged it past 90%. So keep that in mind. But once you drive it for a little bit, it will come back. You'll kind of be back to normal. That's also another benefit of why you shouldn't charge past 90%, because that would mean my commute to work would have no regenerative braking. The efficiency would be lower. And then also, too, I just like the one pedal driving of not using the brake pedal much at all. Also, too, I did bring my adapter for charge point networks. I literally had no intention of using a level 2 charger, but I thought, just in case, my luck, I get to Gainesville at, estimated 10% battery. The closest charger is in Ocala, which is about an hour away. So I would probably have to use a level 2 charger in a pinch to charge for a little bit to then allow me to get to that next supercharger. So I would also recommend that you guys bring any adapters you have, bring your mobile connector, bring any adapters, so just in case you're not stuck. I didn't need to do that. I had perfect, flawless access to superchargers, no problem, but I was just thinking just in case. And another thing, guys, obviously with a road trip, a Tesla is going to be the best vehicle, no doubt about it, because you have autopilot. So sometimes I like using autopilot where you don't touch the wheel at all. Sometimes I just like using the traffic aware cruise control. So you just tap the stalk once down versus two, and it keeps the distance, but then you can still move the wheel. That's also amazing. Most cars have that anyway, but again, that's just perfect. Most notably is that we were stuck in traffic, like literally going like under 10 miles an hour for a long time. That would have been mind-numbingly painful if I had to just use the accelerator and the brake. I just had it on autopilot. I wasn't even steering. The car was stopping and starting. Perfect. The one downsides of autopilot, if the lines are if you're going through like a construction zone where the lines kind of veer around, a human driver is going to be more graceful with that. Autopilot will do it, but it's going to feel a little bit weird. Also, too, phantom braking is a thing. The car, in my opinion, broke. It did not break. It braked. The car slowed down quicker than I would think I do. And there was a time or two where I saw no reason for the car to slow down, and it would just kind of slam on the brakes for a second. Phantom braking, I think, is still kind of a thing. And another thing, I live in Florida, so we're the sunshine state, but that is not true, because during the summertime, it rains literally every single day. On my drive to Gainesville and back, we probably went through a downpour at least 4 or 5 times, to the point where not just autopilot, but like the traffic aware cruise control got disabled. Even the emergency lane assistance was disabled because the rain is so bad. Like the sensors were blocked, like the cameras were blocked, the sensors were blocked, sonar was blocked. There was a point, and obviously I don't have it on camera, but there was a point where the car literally just like started slowing down because the sensors were not reading the car in front of it. So I had to take over, but it took me like, I slowed down about 20 miles an hour before I realized we were slowing down. And of course there was a big truck behind us that started coming pretty quickly. So just keep in mind of your speed. Also, if it's raining really, really, really hard, I would just turn off everything and drive manually for my own peace of mind in the future. And once we got to our supercharger, which actually was at our destination, so we just ate lunch, it estimated that it would take about 50 minutes to charge, but of course with supercharging, it charges way faster at the beginning and then slowly tapers down. So we didn't even charge to the full capacity. I charged about like 306 miles, and I knew I'd be good. And I think, just for your record, the Gainesville supercharger, I was peaking at about 600 miles of range per hour. And I went from our house to Gainesville. The range that the Tesla started out was 325 miles. We got there with 86 miles of range. EPA estimation is based on in-town traffic and highway driving, but we strictly drove on the highway between 70 and 80 miles per hour. So that's actually really good. And I attribute that to this being the rear-wheel drive model with 18-inch aero wheels. It's literally the most efficient Tesla there is with the most range. So this is the car to get for road trips, like hands down. And like I said, guys, there were 4 superchargers on the way there, but to actually go there would have just been an inconvenience. Like people say, oh, well, you can get coffee, you can use the bathroom. But honestly, it's way more convenient to just use the bathroom at a rest stop that's right off the highway. Like literally right off and right back on. If Tesla started putting superchargers at literal like state, paid rest stops, that would be a game changer, because rest stops, even if you're there for 5-10 minutes, if you're supercharging, like you can get some miles back. Overall, guys, I'm super happy that I took this Tesla on this road trip. Like I said, this is the best Tesla model for road trips of all time right now. Yes, the Model S does have a range of 370 miles, but this is the most efficient in my opinion. It's going to take less juice to completely charge it, and you're going to get the farthest, per watt hour. If you liked this video, go ahead and like it and subscribe to my channel. I make new tech videos all the time. Have a great day, guys. See you later. Bye.